Let's jump right into this explainer. Have you ever wondered why so many organizational change programs completely fizzle out? Like, despite the absolute best intentions, they just fail? We've all seen the paradox, right? A shiny new strategic plan is rolled out, it's got a brilliant vision, new core values, precise KPIs. Managers hold these big, energetic workshops, everyone in the room is nodding along, and you genuinely feel this sense of momentum. But then, Monday morning rolls around, everyday life returns, the pressure mounts, and suddenly everyone goes right back to working exactly as they did before. So why does that happen?
I'll think of organizational change kind of like navigating a really dense forest. Your strategies and your intentions, they basically just point you in a specific direction. They tell you where you want to go. But our daily habits are the actual physical path we end up walking. The real driver of behavior, whether we're talking about just you or an entire massive company, isn't what we loudly announce we're going to do. It's the automatic and visible routines we perform every single day. If we want to change where we end up, we have to stop staring at the compass and start looking closely at the path right beneath our feet. Management expert John Cotter really hits the nail on the head here. He points out that transformations don't fail because of a bad strategy. They fail because new behaviors just don't become part of the culture. And what is culture, really? When you strip it all down, a culture is just a collection of habits. All those expensive workshops and inspiring new values are so easily forgotten the second a crisis hits, and people just default to their comfort zones. An organization that genuinely transforms its culture is one that figures out how to rewire its operational habits, not just its declared intentions. It is the massive difference between just announcing a change and actually living it.
So let's contrast these two ideas for a second, because the difference is pretty stark. Change that only operates at the level of intellectual intention, like signing some glossy statement of commitment, is incredibly fragile. It literally shatters under stress. The second a tight deadline looms, boom, the old pattern rushes right back in to save time. But change that is anchored in a habit? That remains completely stable. The new automatic pattern holds firm under pressure precisely because it doesn't require any extra brain power to execute when things get tough.
And here is the crucial thing we have to understand. Our brains absolutely love efficiency. They are wired for it. Whenever we repeat a behavior in response to a specific stimulus and it gives us a nice little reward, our brain bundles that whole sequence of actions into one automatic package. The advantage here is huge, right? It frees up our cognitive space for complex, net new problems. But the obvious downside is that these automatic sequences, these deeply ingrained routines, become incredibly hard to break.
To figure out how to actually break these routines, author Charles Duhigg maps out our neural architecture into 4 really simple elements. First, you have the signal. That's the cue that triggers the whole thing. Second is the routine itself, the automatic action you take. Third is the reward that makes your brain register the routine as satisfying. And fourth is the underlying need, that deep craving that makes the reward meaningful in the first place. You have to understand this loop. It is the absolute baseline prerequisite for making any lasting change.
So the brilliant strategy here is actually not to fight your neural architecture. Honestly, that's a losing battle. Instead, you redesign it. You keep the exact same trigger and you keep the exact same reward, but you intentionally swap out the routine itself. If you can pinpoint exactly what triggers a behavior in your office, let's say it's a super stressful email from a client, and what need it fulfills, like, say, a need for reassurance or control, you can insert a completely new, much healthier routine right into that exact same slot to get the exact same reward.
Now, not all habits are created equal. You've probably heard of keystone habits. These are your absolute ultimate leverage points. By tapping into the psychological reality that visible progress creates small wins, these keystone habits effortlessly build momentum. They increase confidence and basically create a cascading effect across the entire organization. It makes it so much easier to shift the really big, stubborn organizational behaviors without feeling like you're endlessly pushing a boulder up a hill.
To actually scale this framework to an entire company, we lean on 4 core pillars drawn from the science of happiness. First up is being, which is simply becoming fully aware of our own automatic routines. Then we have us, building social habits together, because let's face it, we reinforce each other. Next is discipline. This means setting up really clear if-then implementation plans, which just dramatically boosts your success rate. And finally, positive chemistry, actually taking the time to celebrate those small wins to release a hit of dopamine and physically wire in the new habits.
But listen, none of this, literally none of it, works without meaning. For new routines to actually survive under pressure, the community has to build a shared narrative. They have to make the change deeply relevant to their own daily lives. Meaning is the totally decisive factor here. People only change when they understand and genuinely feel why doing so matters to them personally. Change isn't just a corporate memo. It's a deeply social process where communities have to support each other through the inevitable setbacks.
Over time, you see this progression naturally build on itself. It's actually really cool to watch. A declared intention turns into aware practice. Then that practice hardens into a totally stable habit. And ultimately, it forges a brand new organizational identity. You eventually reach this magic point where people simply shrug and say, hey, this is just the way we work here. People change their identity because they practice the new behaviors long enough to feel like they truly own them. First comes the doing, then comes the being. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a bit of a provocative question. Take this back to your next team huddle or leadership meeting. Ask yourselves, what is your organization's keystone habit? What is that one single small routine that, if you just completely redesigned it today, would trigger a massive cascade of positive change across your entire culture? Find that habit, and you find the real driver of transformation.